Hello, and welcome to Asians in Art. I'm Siwa Chin.
And I'm Karuna Shinsho. We're talking today to Japanese harpist extraordinaire Mariko Anraku. Welcome to the show, Mariko.
Oh, thank you for having me.
We're going to start from the very beginning. You were born in Japan. How were you exposed to classical music?
Well, my grandmother, who passed away actually last summer at age 105, she was a pianist and piano teacher all her life. And so I started studying the piano with her when I was 3, when my mom was in the hospital having my younger brother. And then my aunt, my mom's sister, is a harpist. So when my body grew taller, around age 8, I started studying the harp with her.
So what was that like to go from playing the piano to actually using strings? Because I played the piano and I'm now learning the violin with my kid. It's very different.
I was so young, so to be honest, I really don't remember. But it really helped to have been playing the piano already because I could read music, and also both the piano and harp, you use both right and left hand. So I think that was an easy adjustment. I don't remember about the strings, but the harp was so familiar to me because my aunt kept one of her harps at my grandmother's house. So I went to my grandmother's house every weekend, and it was there. So it was, like a natural transition.
Did you enjoy it though? Because when I also learned piano when I was a child, and I hated practicing. I do regret it now because I think, if I practiced more, I'd be an amazing player now. But what was it like for you? Were your parents really strict and made you practice, or what was it like?
Oh, well, my grandmother and I had a really special relationship. So, of course, I don't remember my first lessons in detail with her, but it was just like being with my grandmother. Of course, later in my teenage years, and then by that time, our family was living in Canada because of my father's job. Then, I was a teenager, plus I was doing so much. I swam. I was on a swim team, so I trained in the morning before school, after school, and then I had to practice piano, harp, do homework. I went to Saturday Japanese school, so there was homework for that too. So I was like going nonstop. I remember there were times when, I would not want to practice and fake practicing if my parents were out or...
I'd really love to hear more because my kid is nice to do sports. She's at school and I'm trying to get her to do violin every day. She's learning Suzuki method at this wonderful school called the School for Strings. And I'm hoping that she will have fond memories, as you do of your grandmother, of me when she grows up.
Oh, right. Well, grandparents are always different than parents, right? I mean, I'm not a grandparent myself yet, but I just know the rapport. I mean, it was just such a beautiful relationship I had with my grandmother, and I see it with my parents and my son. But School for Strings is an amazing, intense, excellent school.
Your son plays the violin, is that right? Or
He was studying with a School for Strings teacher, but he didn't last with violin. He loves the piano, and he's still continuing. But it is, whether it's School for Strings or another very immersive school. I mean, I did a lot at the Royal Conservatory of Music in Toronto, where I took, not just the harp and piano lessons, but like history, theory, counterpoint, all those other classes. So I understand but it really helps with your playing to understand music from different aspects. Music is a big commitment for the family, right? Because you also have to endure watching her,
taking her to the lessons
and
making sure she practices and all of that stuff, right? Yeah.
But in the end, it's, worth it. And whether she does it professionally or not, hopefully she'll love the music. Like my son just loves it. He's not going to be a professional pianist, but he actually loves going to his lessons, whether he practices or not, because he says it's relaxing for him.
Yeah, I agree. Because my older son, who's actually in college now, he started with Suzuki method when he was living in Africa, doing with the milk carton and then... But eventually, he's now taking violin classes at his college, but it's just for fun because he actually enjoys it, which is amazing to me because I thought he would, stop after high school and hate it, but he actually enjoys it. So I think that's a possibility for your daughter too. Yeah.
And also, I mean, they say that musical training from a young age, no matter whether it's going to be a future career or not, it's really great for your development.
You teach as well, don't you, Mariko? How do you find that?
Oh, I love teaching. I love my students, and I had incredibly giving teachers, starting with my grandmother and my mentors later on. So
that's right. You met Judy Lohman, is that right, in Toronto?
My big mentor, and of course my teacher here in New York at Juilliard. She's Nancy Allen. She's also incredible, and my aunt is forever supportive. And I had another really wonderful teacher in Vancouver, Lanalee DeCant. I think because I had such a positive and really incredible experiences with them. So it's, my turn to also give whatever I can from what I've learned from them, or also just from my career, what I've learned.
Did you actually feel that you were, or have an inkling that you wanted to be a professional harpist when you were studying with Judy?
No, I had no idea. I was just so, since a young age, starting with my grandmother on the piano at 3, and then starting with my aunt later. And I just continued. And luckily, my parents, probably through the, help of my aunt and then others, found really wonderful piano and harp teachers in both Vancouver and then Toronto.
Yeah, you seem to have been surrounded by a lot of supportive and great teachers. So you were in Japan, and then you went to Toronto to study at the Royal Conservatory. And then you went back to Japan for college. Why did you do that? And you didn't even study music.
Yeah, okay. So, first we moved to Vancouver. First, my dad was transferred to Vancouver from a Japanese company he worked with. And then after Vancouver, he was moved to Toronto. And then actually he was transferred to Los Angeles. And Judy offered, my parents for me to live with her family and continue studying. And when my father was transferred from Los Angeles back to Japan, they said, okay, you're coming back. And I went to the American school in Japan for my last year and quarter of high school, where Karina also went. And then I did keep going back to study with Judy during vacations. But at that time, I don't know how it is now, but the American school in Japan, to apply, you could only apply to 2 schools within Japan, the Sophia University and ICU, and then otherwise you could apply anywhere outside of Japan.
Yeah, there were a lot of English
programs.
Programs that were taught in English, right? Yeah.
Or they didn't
accept
allow SIJ as a Japanese high school.
Right.
Yeah, I think. If I'm remembering correctly, my parents wanted me to stay in Japan for a little bit. So then I started to attend Sophia University, although I took the whole first year off so that I could go and study with Judy. So there was a lot of back and forth, yeah. And then eventually I decided that I wanted to transfer to a music school. And so then I auditioned for the Juilliard School here.
What was that like?
Because our teacher, Nancy, she still teaches there, she's very relaxed and nice and fun. And when I went to play too, she was very friendly and made it really easy to, play. And I had also just finished and done well at the Israel contest, maybe that same month or so. And so I had a lot of repertoire in top shape. So maybe that made it easier and comfortable too.
Yeah, and before the Met audition, after that, you won the Concert Artist Guild competition in 95, and you were picked out over 400 other musicians. That's not a small amount. Is it part of being a musician that you have to be in contests, or did you choose to?
You don't have to be, but actually that's an interesting question because we do a lot of competitions. I don't know how it would have been if I had stayed in Japan. They must do competitions too. But from a young age, at least, I only know my life, which my childhood years into teenage years were in Canada. They have a lot of competitions for youngsters. They must hear too. And so my teachers in Vancouver and Toronto had me do those like community contests. It wasn't the Israel contest that I did in 1992, but because performing is not just for yourself, right? You're sharing the music. And so you do need to get used to playing in front of an audience. And of course, competition's a different atmosphere, but they made it so that it's easy access and like not something like, oh, a competition. So I think I was also lucky in that sense that my teachers just had me do them casually since I was young. I did do those international competitions too, but it really helps you build big repertoire and to really go deep into these pieces, study them with your teachers, mentors, and also time management, because once you're at this international contest level, there's so many stages of repertoire you have to prepare. And
I was thinking, what does it feel like to actually play in front of an audience?
what
now
does
that we're
it
talking,
feel
what does
like?
it feel like? I mean, actors like acting on stage, right? There's that whole theatre, chemistry with the audience.
Yeah,
are you building chemistry with your audience, or are you playing?
Yes, that's what we all hope for. I mean, from the audience side, and you just become the vessel of the piece or the composer's intent. Yeah, it's not always easy to do that, right? To just let go and to be also that prepared and then to be spontaneous, but really, in touch with the music. The sound should just be like spirit floating around, right? And just absorbing all of us together. And
you mentioned about the competitions and what that entails, but also while you were studying at Juilliard, that's when you decide to audition for the Metropolitan Opera. Their audition process is quite unique, right? And can you tell us a little bit about that? Because it's quite fascinating.
So at the Met, from beginning to end, you're just a number and everything is screened. So meaning in my case, when I auditioned, I was still at Juilliard. I had no orchestral experience, and I didn't really have a career. Yeah, it was just starting. So I had to make back then a cassette tape. Then I was invited to the live round, maybe half a year later. And so at the Met, they have a curtain, or I think when I did my audition, there were wooden panels, and we were in List Hall, where the audience is taken if you're late to watch the opera on the screen. So I was on the stage and just playing.
So the judges cannot see you, right? There's a screen between the judge and you behind it.
Oh. Yeah, and then you're just a number. Right. I forget what my number was, but there were 3 live rounds, and you just stay a number, and you never are seen by the judges. So it's really fair.
So they really judge by just hearing how you're playing.
Mm-hmm.
That's amazing.
It's so great. It's such a great system.
Right. But not all orchestras do that?
No. Often they'll lift the screen for the final round or the semi-final round, and the Met is
So when did you get the call to say you had got the job?
Oh, right after. So I played. So there were 2 finalists, and then maybe I was first. So I just remember I was back in the practice room or the warm-up room, packing up my tuner and tuning key, my little things. And the orchestra manager at the time just came over and said, "Oh, congratulations, you have a job."
How did you feel?
I don't remember. I really don't remember.
How do you not remember? Like, you are now part of the most famous orchestra in the world.
I don't remember, but I just know I really wanted to tell my teachers. And then I remember back then we had those payphones. So I remember going back to Juilliard and then, getting on those phones to call Judy and tell Nancy. And it's many years ago, and I was so young, and I was still a student, and I wasn't at the time that interested in auditioning for an orchestra.
So then why did you end up doing it if you weren't really?
So because, I wanted to do it for the simplest
real story.
The real story.
Yes.
Do you want the real
That's
answer?
right.
Yeah.
That's what we're here for.
So So the Metropolitan Opera is beside the Juilliard School. I didn't know that much about opera, and but the harpist who had left the vacancy for this audition to happen, her name is Marie-Pierre Langlamet, amazing French harpist. She left the Met to go and play with the Berlin Philharmonic. And she was the first prize winner at the Israel contest when I placed third. So I thought, okay, if Marie-Pierre had this job, okay, I'll try. Because she's incredible. And it was close. Literally, a few of us just rolled one of the beautiful Juilliard harps over, like just across 65th over to the Met, right? So I didn't have to travel somewhere to do an audition. Yeah, I wasn't desperate yet to have a job.
Were you even nervous when you were playing?
I don't remember. I don't think that nervous because luckily I was really prepared. And then as my teacher in Toronto, Judy, would bring up once in a while to tell the story that, apparently I told her, okay, I'll just keep practicing the excerpts every day in case I get called.
But you were still a student. You didn't have much experience orchestra and let alone opera music, right? So, I mean, when you first started working for them, was it quite challenging, right?
It was stressful because, as you may know, the Met goes through, well, at least back then, we do less productions now, but you go through a lot of repertoire within a week. So, yeah, the first years were really, really stressful. I mean, it was exciting, but also so much to learn, and also to suddenly be playing in world-class orchestra where everyone's really, really seasoned. And everybody understands how hard it is to start playing in an opera orchestra, because at school at Juilliard, I mean, I remember I did a few operas, but they were chamber operas, smaller operas. I mean, it's just a different level.
Do you prefer being a soloist, playing a duet, or being in chamber, or being in an orchestra?
I like them all, but I mean, playing in the orchestra and then hearing these collaborating with the amazing singers and the musicians and conductor. I mean, there's nothing else like that. And then chamber music is also, fun. It's like we're talking music, right? Like, I mean, we're playing and we're talking to each other. Also, opera is also, very special in its own way. I mean, what the singers can do is just incredible, and the repertoire, and I mean, everything about it is magic.
So how do you navigate that in an opera situation where you're in the pit, so we don't see you, and you can't really see the singers up there either, right?
No, especially where the harp sits now in our orchestra.
So
anyway.
How do you navigate that?
So I've got like, we all have like 1,000 antennas up, like sensory and like oral and just everything. Well, we have our eyes on the conductor, but also we have to be listening. Same in symphonic works, but even more so, we have to be really alert and flexible, because with a singer's breath or playing with singers is completely different than just playing with instrumentalists.
In what way?
There's just more in the moment drama, and you have to be like really alert and just totally present to catch all that, and not catch and play, but you have to like mold and blend with it, right? And do your part. It's amazing.
So we're going to go to a break now, but when we come back, we'll be talking to Mariko about her musical projects outside of the Met. Welcome back to Asians in Art. We've been speaking with Mariko Anraku, the Associate Principal Harpist at the Met Opera Orchestra in New York. You have a number of recordings. The latest one is Kimiko's Pearl, Symphonic Suite by Kevin Lau. And it was inspired by the Japanese-Canadians' experience during World War II. Can you tell us a bit more about that?
Yes, you're totally right, except the recording that I was part of, it was not the symphonic version, but it was a chamber music version that we did during COVID. I mean, it's everything about this project is extraordinary. Kevin Lau, the composer, he did revise and write a symphonic version, which was premiered in Toronto this April. Yeah, I was part of the original, which was born during, this idea was born amongst the creators, the producers, a mother and daughter, Canadian, Japanese, during COVID. And with the composer, what we did was harp, flute, classical Western flute, plus a lot of different Oriental Asian flutes, which Ron played. And then, so he was in Toronto, I was in New York, and then the cellist, Rachel, she was, I believe, in Ottawa. And then the violinist, Conrad, I think he was in Toronto. So we all recorded separately, and we had this amazing sound engineer, Aaron. Aaron and Kevin, the composer, they worked together. And Aaron, I mean, he's a magician. So initially I did the first part of the recording with him on Zoom, like telling me they sent me mics and mic stands. And I didn't know.
Wow, you had to record it yourself.
Yeah, because it was during COVID. So then, but luckily for Zoom, he was instructing me exactly what angles to put the mics and he mixed all of us together. And then, but I did go see the premiere of the actual ballet using our music. That was outside of Toronto and St. Catharines. And that was in the summer of, 2024. And Judy and my best friend came with me. But
what was it like?
It was, oh my God, it was incredible. The choreography and the set. I mean, the story, it's a true, real story of the two producers and their family of the Japanese Canadians who were in the internment camps. I knew about the American Japanese, but so yeah, it's a beautiful creation because, they talk about what their family endured, but out of it, how there's so much hope and life. It's called Kimiko's Pearl. Kimiko is the middle name of Alexis, the daughter, who's the co-producer.
Did you know them? Or how did they approach you?
Yeah, this is so interesting because during COVID, I got an email from them, and it turns out Alexis, Kimiko, she used to study the harp, and so they're from Canada. And so apparently she grew up listening to my CDs. And so when it was time, like when it was decided that this combination would include harp, they approached me. And I was so happy because of the story, but also during COVID, I mean, we couldn't perform.
Work. Yeah.
And yeah, it's a really extraordinary story in every sense.
Right. And the experience for you must have been amazing as well.
It was wonderful. And Kevin's music is so gorgeous. And
I mean, you're playing normally classical music, but I've read that you're really interested in other types of music as well. So I wanted to talk a little bit about you working with the Japanese composer.
Toshio Hosokawa.
Yeah, that's right.
With the monks
and classical Japanese instruments. Yeah, which is very interesting. What got you involved in that?
Well, that was so much fun. I think I had met Hosokawa-san already before that, maybe at a festival. And anyhow, he asked me if I would go on tour. This is just, I think, when I had joined the Met. He had this incredible work where it was for Japanese Buddhist monks chanting, and then with Japanese imperial court musicians. So yeah, I learned to play this old ancient harp. It's called kugo, and it came from China.
So is that very different from Western harp? And was that hard to play?
Yeah, it was really different because first of all, it's much smaller. And then you also play on the other side of the soundboard and also the...
Are there fewer notes?
We have way less notes and the strings are different. And the space between the strings are also different. I also got to play another piece for a great instrument called sho. It's like a bamboo organ that the player blows into. Fascinating, beautiful sound. So he has a piece called utsudoi for sho on harp, classical harp. So we also got to tour with that in a few cities and, premiere these works at contemporary music festivals in Europe. So that was lots of fun.
I just had a few more questions. So there's been sort of talk about how opera, classical music, opera is really more for older generation. It's a dying art. Do you agree with that?
I don't think so. I think it's for all generations. Some younger people might really love it anyway because maybe their family goes to the opera a lot or, the productions are fabulous. And at the Met now, we are actually, for the last few years with our new music director, we've been premiering or bringing a lot of modern operas. The older generation loves those productions too, but maybe the younger generation
to come in.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the productions are they're very, they can be bombastic and they can be so elaborate, but they're so beautiful.
The whole company works at they're so devoted. And so every aspect of the production and even, outside of the theater, the ushers, everybody is so devoted to the Met. But the productions are incredible, right? From lighting to set designs to costumes. They make all the beautiful costumes, stunning, right? In the house, shoes, wigs, makeup, just orchestra, chorus, dancers. There's so many things that go into a production of one opera, and stage managers. Everybody's, really working at top class and devoted, and yeah.
Karina, we have to do that. We've got to go and see one this season.
Well, but we'll have to dress up a little bit more than our usual blue twin outfit. We seem to be wearing every show the same color, and we don't even plan it, right?
A bit of ESPN going on.
My haircut recently, so we're looking like twins. But before we go, I just want to ask you quickly because you had mentioned about wanting to know a little bit of advice or tips for the
young
aspiring harpist
or classical musician.
Well, just, enjoy and relax.
Says the seasoned professional.
So says the
I had to learn along the way too, right? And I still have to remind myself and, even, I do try to do a little bit of qigong every morning. And also, if you're really just intent on how you want to express every note or every piece, rather than just getting through something, but just really enjoying every step of it, but staying relaxed. We actually meditate for a few minutes at the beginning of harp class.
I need to take that for my everyday life, not just when I'm learning music. Because when I pick up the violin, I feel very tense.
Well, the violin is every instrument, has its weirdnesses, but violin. I don't know how violinists play for so many hours, and our violinists at the opera too, hours and hours.
But even for harp too, right? Do you have physical ailments because you're playing so many years a particular instrument?
No, seriously. Yeah,
no,
I am getting older too, but because we're playing in a certain position for so many years. For me, playing in orchestra, I have to look at the music this way and look at unless I can place myself perfectly in with the conductor, some part are weirdly, not aligned. So then, but it depends on, how big the orchestration is, right? If you don't have enough space.
So you need a good chiropractor.
Yeah, I have a great chiropractor if you need. Yeah, and so adjustments, and I go for massage every week. Different musicians have different things we have to deal with. We're like athletes.
All right, we're going to wrap up with our interview with the Met Opera harpist, Mariko Anraku. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. It's been so much fun.